If you're a bit confused about how to use AI inside of Airtable, you've come to the right place. In this video, I'm going to be walking through the core different AI capabilities in Airtable. There are key differences between the different types of AI that we have access to, and I'm going to outline all of them in one thoughtful example. So if you're ready to learn more about how to AI inside of Airtable, stick around and let's get into it. Welcome to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Gareth and this is Gap Consulting, and it's our mission here to help you unlock the full potential of Airtable and related tools in the no-code space so that you can build better software, stay more organized, and get more automated. Now in this video, we're going to be diving into all the AI features that Airtable has to offer here in 2026. So let's kick it off by starting with a brand new base build, which is going to be the first one of the AIs that we really want to explore, and this is the Omni Builder. Now, in order to access this, let's just start with a brand new database in Airtable. So log into airtable.com, and of course, if you have Builder access, when you go to the left side of the screen, you'll see the ability here to create a new database. So select that, and you're going to see the opportunity or the option to build an app with Omni. So if we make this selection, we're just going to get a big prompt. We can put in the prompt that we see fit. We can import spreadsheets, etc. So I've pasted in my prompt here. I don't have any spreadsheets with raw data that I want to start with, but if I did, I could include them here as well. And then we just say build it. Now this is insanely simple. Omni is going to put together what it thinks are the best choices for us on this database. And not only is it going to build the backend database, but also the interface components as well. Now, one thing that Omni does not do right now is build automations for us from this prompt. So these are things that we can go into in more detail, but think of Omni right now as setting up the basic framework for our database. It's going to create a plan, as you see currently. It's going to give us the details of this plan if we want to break down what it's going to include here. And assuming that this looks good, we just say build it. If we have any edits we'd like to put in here, of course, we can add them here. But for our purposes, I'm just going to take the plan as written, and we're going to move forward with this. Now, it's only taken a few seconds, but Omni has put together everything we need for our first version of our app. Now, the places that deserve your attention, number one is the data layer. If you're new to Airtable, always check out the way your database is built. Each tab here is its own table of objects. We have inquiries in our case, we have clients, and we have those projects. So we're just tracking inquiries that come in, the people who submit those inquiries, and then the projects that result from those inquiries. You'll notice also that there is data in my database. So Omni, the AI for Airtable, has put together at least sample data in both my clients and my projects tables. Now, the other piece of this is the interfaces. Omni is also building out interfaces for us. It built out an inquiry pipeline that's going to look at all of our inquiry data, and it's also built out an inquiry follow-up prioritization, which is a grid view that is basically sharing the inquiry data and grouping it selectively so that we can perform and deliver on these different inquiries. Now, as I already called out, Omni does not currently also build automations in that original prompt. So if you look here, you'll see that there is nothing built from an automation perspective in our database. And if you followed our channel for any amount of time, you'll know that automations are the plumbing that runs underneath of your application. And this is what keeps everything going and flowing. So make sure to give some attention to automations, whether it's with AI tools or otherwise, but keep in the back of your mind that Omni didn't build any of this for you off of your original prompt. And if you find yourself wondering, as I've been going on here, I keep talking about Omni. Omni is Airtable's internal AI tool. It allows us to build, but it also allows us to query an existing set of information. Another key thing to know about Omni is that it often overdoes what it was asked to do. I notice that I'll give it some very basic prompts, as I did in this case, and it kind of tries to overplay its hand. So it creates a lot more fields than one needs. I strongly suggest going back and looking at exactly what Omni built after it built it, and then making sure to clear out any of the junk that you actually don't want for your particular app. I do this all the time, and my only complaint here is that because Omni also builds interfaces, after you go in and you pull that information out, and you remove all these fields, then it has a tendency to really mess up the way the interfaces are going to show up. Because if Omni has already built certain data that it wants to surface on an interface, and then you remove that data, well then of course your interface might break. So be sure to come back in and clean things up a little bit. And of course, you can chat with Omni and ask it to update these things as well. Now let's move back into our data. But what I want to highlight is a couple of things. Number one, I've removed a bunch of fields, as I said, stuff that I didn't want Omni to build that it thought I did. And the second thing is I've populated this table with some inquiries. I've added some sample data for name, company, email, the inquiry message, the budget range, and the status of inquiry. But one thing I want to highlight, and of course we didn't ask Omni for this, so no fault on Omni, but we don't have any way of categorizing our data yet. So this is exactly where we're going to bring in the second core AI feature from Airtable. And notice that this is not going to be Omni. Now, something that really needs to be explained here, we're going to move into a different type of AI, field agents. And these are going to consume credits against our AI plan with Airtable. So be sure to be thoughtful of that. Even if you're on the free plan, you should get a certain amount of credits, but they'll go very quickly. So be thoughtful about this when you're building in field agents. But what we don't have, as I mentioned, is something for categories. So let's zoom in here and we're going to build a new field and we're going to call it category. And we're going to find that custom agent option. So we're going to go with a field agent, and this is where we need to name it category. The first thing we do on a field agent is select the type. Now for us, it's going to be a single select. We only have one type that we want the AI to assume. So basically what we're trying to do is getting our AI to analyze the inquiry that has come into our database and to tell us what category does this fit into. Now let's assume that for us, we have standard builds and complex builds. So we would want this category field to put things in one of those two buckets, but we should also include a third bucket for not a fit. So if we get an inquiry that really doesn't align with this business, then we want to output not a fit so that we don't waste a lot of time pursuing this inquiry. Now, inside of our prompt is where we're going to write the actual message for our prompt. I'm intentionally using a very generic first prompt here. And one thing to highlight is that we can add fields. So I'm going to say inquiry message is here, and we can hit at, or we can just select the add field button down here, but we can actually bring in reference from the other data in our records. So this is going to bring in the inquiry message. And I also want to look at the budget range here, and we're going to say budget range, add this, and we'll include that. Now, I also like to come in and say inputs here so that this knows exactly what we're doing, that we're going to be including some inputs from start to finish, and I'll just bring in some brackets so that the AI field agent knows these are my inputs, I'm using this. And now lastly, because this is a single select agent, we need to actually create the different options. Even though we called them out here, standard build, complex build, not a fit, we need to add these options directly in here. So let me bring them in here, complex, and then lastly, not a fit. You can copy and paste or just type them out. Make sure you're matching as well as possible. You can choose different colors. You can add a description for the AI to make it a little bit better of a prompt, etc. But I'm going to call this good, and we're going to move on to create our field. Now, you'll notice that right now it says it's searching the web, and that is because of the way that we had our settings. So let's click back in and take a better look at the settings that we have. Number one is the type of information that this agent can produce. Number two is the tools. We don't need it to search the web. We have all the information we need, so I will toggle this off. this will just burn credits for our example. Next, we can look at the model. By default, it goes to GPT 4.1, but we have access to many of the OpenAI models, many of the Claude models, and then some lesser used models as well, perhaps Gemini or AWS, a bit more popular as well. So we've got all of these different models to choose from. Choose a model that will work with you and also pay attention to the cost. Again, this field agent will use your AI credits. So if you're able to lower that cost because it's not a very complicated agent, better for your scenario. The last couple of pieces here in the settings. Automatic generation. Do we want to generate this automatically every time an input field changes? This means if somebody updates the inquiry message or updates the budget range of our data, our AI agent will reprocess. Do we want that? In our case, I don't, so I'll keep that toggled off. And then next are additional triggers. We can set up a schedule so that this AI runs on a schedule or based on conditions. So we can say, don't run this unless the inquiry message is not empty and unless the budget range is not empty. Now, this might seem self-explanatory, but of course, we don't want our AI to take a stab in the dark when we don't even have information in our inquiry records here. So if we're happy with this, we can go ahead and save this up. And notice that you can rerun the agent or make a manual override if you want to come in and say, actually, you know what, this is a standard build or a complex build, etc. Taking the field agent a little bit further, I would also highlight that you can write a better message here in general. Our original message, not so great. Now, you don't have to be a prompt master to be able to do this. You can edit the actual thing with AI. So we can simply say what our original prompt is, drop it in here, and then ask it to update the agent. And we can see what AI suggests we should do to make a better prompt. And you can see that this is an incredibly more robust prompt than what we had before. And if we make it save here and change it up, I'd be very curious to see which of these would be differently categorized. So right now we have 5 inquiries in the standard, 4 in the complex. I'm going to rerun this on all of these, and you see things are already moving around here. So 1 was actually moved from standard into complex. I believe that was this record here for Elena. And yes, it was. We can see that AI made the update here. So what do we think, using human judgment, what would this be? We have event and staffing tracker here, okay? And then we have the budget range. So this clearly was in that gray area. And when we made a better prompt, we got a better outcome. So do take time to put together a proper prompt to get better outputs for your applications. Now let's shift to the third type of AI that you really need to know about in Airtable, and that is AI inside of Airtable automations. Now, in order to access this, we're going to go into our automation section. I already called out that this is where everything flows in the background. This is the plumbing to your database underneath the surface. And what we want to do is build an application so that when a lead is upgraded to qualified, then we are going to draft an email for that qualified lead. So let's get into our automation and start getting to work. We're going to add a trigger first. This is not AI, where we say a record matches certain conditions in our inquiry table when the status of that record moves to qualified. Then what do we want to do? Well, we want to, here's where we generate some output with AI. So let's actually generate text. We're sending an email. We want to draft an email. Let's generate text. You could add a description here, but I'm going to drop in my prompt. What I want is to write a short follow-up email. Let's make this a little bit bigger. To a name and a company. We're going to bring those in. Reference the specific need of that company based on the inquiry message. And then, of course, we're saying, here's our tone. We're signing it off to say thanks. I'm signing it with my own name, etc. So let's go ahead and bring in the name. This is where the name element lived. So I'm going to bring it in here. Let's bring in the company. And then lastly, we're going to bring in that inquiry message. And I think for our purposes, I'm going to include it inside of these brackets, the squiggly brackets, and I will say inquiry message. So let's drop this out. Now, do we want AI to access the internet? In this case, no. Similar things here. You'll notice we're asked, do we want to access the internet? What model do we want to use? What's the randomness? Etc., etc. But the output from this is going to be a follow-up email under 120 words. So let's go to our data. We're going to flip one of these to qualified. Before we do, let's look at the inquiry message. In this particular case, we're looking at a prospective client who wants this driver tracking system, telling us that they're in spreadsheets, they want automations, etc. So let's take this and use it in our automation as a sample and see what the AI is able to generate. We will take the status here, or the trigger. We will choose a record. Now that we have one that meets our condition, we find it here. Then we generate text using AI. Let's test the action and see if this, in fact, falls in line with what we would expect. So here is the output response. It says, Marcus, you're looking to move from spreadsheets to a streamlined dispatch and driver tracking system with automated customer status updates. We can help by designing a solution tailored to your 40-truck operation. I mean, this took the information that was inside that inquiry form, spat it back out in a proper reply email, and did a decent job of it. Now, of course, as we could before, we have access to different models. We have access to higher or lower randomness. So use these different tweaks. But again, be conscious of the fact that this will burn AI credits on your Airtable plan. So use this thoughtfully. Now that we have the output, the reply from our AI-generated response, we can use that in additional steps in our automation. Perhaps we're sending an email directly here, or we just want to save the drafted email back in Airtable so that we can review it before we actually send it. Maybe we want to also come in and update the data here so that the status is upgraded to follow-up sent. So there are a lot of steps that we can take, all based on automation, so that once this trigger is met, the status is qualified. When that happens, we draft that email and do whatever we want with it from there. Now, in order to do that, we would add additional steps in our automation, but I'll leave the precise flow of the automation to your imagination so that you can build what you need in your system. Now, if as I'm going along, you find yourself thinking that this is a little complicated and you could use a little bit of guidance, we have the perfect solution because we offer 3 strategy calls with our team. If you're curious about what your next steps should be in building your solution, swing by gapconsulting.io/strategy-call and book a free 20-minute session, talk through your problems with our team, and get a roadmap to move you forward. Now let's swing back into it because we have one more AI to cover, and this is Omni inside of the active app. This is a little bit different from the way we used Omni earlier. You remember, originally we used Omni to build our system, our database, our interfaces, but now I'm actually in my published interface, and you'll notice that I've got Omni down here in the bottom right corner. Let's give Omni a prompt and see what's going on here. So I'm going to actually ask it a question. Pretty simply, summarize this week's inquiries. Which 3 should I prioritize and why? So the thing to know about Omni while it's thinking is that when I'm asking it information inside of my interfaces, it is permission restrictive, meaning that it can only answer what I have permission to see inside of that interface and database. So do not worry about Omni giving secrets away. If you have people that have interfaces with limited information, when they prompt Omni for any answer or analysis, it can only answer what they are allowed to know. So you can see here that we've got 9 inbound inquiries. We already knew that. There's a budget spread, complexity, 1 qualified lead, because we just upgraded it to qualified, and a couple of low value or poor fit signals. So it gave us all of this output here. You can, of course, make this full screen if you'd like to look at it. This is live data. right inside of our application, and you'll notice that we can see the top 3 records that Omni suggests we prioritize. This is really important for us to do more efficient work because we can prompt Omni directly inside of our system as we're working. Just open it up right there in our interface and have a conversation. So let's do a quick recap here. We've talked about 4 unique different ways that you can engage with AI. Omni as a builder, which is how we built the original application. Number 2 was field agents, which shows us that we can analyze information that exists in our records using AI in some sort of process. Number 3 is bringing in AI for an automated workflow. So when we have a process that's moving somewhat linearly and we need some AI to generate a response or some analysis, we have the option directly inside of automations. And number 4, and perhaps most valuable, the ability to just query our data, ask for brief analysis, ask Omni's opinion directly in Airtable interfaces. I know there's a lot to cover here, but I hope that this video gave you some guidance to how you can pursue AI in 2026 in your Airtable systems. If you're looking for some help, I called it out earlier, but visit us at gapconsulting.io/strategy-call to schedule 20 minutes with someone from our team who can walk through your exact problem and suggest next steps for you so that you can get unstuck immediately. And of course, if you enjoy this content, we would love a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel so that you see more videos like this. But the most important thing here, keep on building.